Welcome back to the Deep DISCOG Dive. Today, we're talking about Ariana Grande. Let's dive in. Ariana Grande Butera was born in Florida in 1993. As a child, she gravitated towards music, theater, and musical theater, though her biggest achievement was entirely unrelated. She holds the distinction of being the first kid to ever ride a Zamboni in the National Car Rental Center in Sunrise, Florida. Another dream of mine made unattainable. Ariana's musical chops grew over time, eventually culminating in her being cast in the Broadway musical 13. It was that role that got her the attention of Nickelodeon, and in 2009, she made her television debut as Cat Valentine in Victorious. My era of Nickelodeon ended with iCarly, so most of this show is just completely over my head. I know the one clip where Victoria Justice goes, and that's all I really know. But it was a pretty big hit. It would even go on to get a spin-off centered around Ariana's character and Jeanette McCurdy's character from iCarly. Instead of the blindingly obvious name Cat and Sam, they went with the much worse Sam and Cat. While acting on the show, Ariana continued with her musical aspirations. She began posting covers to YouTube, and one of these covers soon got in front of the CEO of Republic Records. The label signed Ariana off the strength of her covers, and not the whole star on a popular Nickelodeon show thing. That part feels a bit weird, but anyway. Ariana's first single was Put Your Hearts Up in December 2011. If you're a die-hard Ariana admirer, I would like to now extend an olive branch and tell you that I think this song is bad. This is as bubblegum pop as you can get, a song written to capitalize on Ariana's young fan base. Yeah, because you know what the youth of 2011 go crazy over? The 90s one-hit wonder Four Non-Blondes. Then again, this was that super brief period where some pop artists were sampling the most random old tunes, lest you forget the horrors of Cher Lloyd's Swagger Jagger. And oh god, oh geez, how can I forget the classic line where Ariana sings about how we can change the world even though we can't resurrect Gandhi. Not with that attitude, you can't. Put Your Hearts Up is not a good song, and I feel comfortable saying that because Ariana agrees with me. In the years since its release, she's flat out said she doesn't like the song, but luckily, her first record would end up leaning more towards R&B. In September 2013, Ariana Grande made her full-length debut with Yours Truly. The biggest thing setting Ariana apart from her peers at this time was her clear influences from 90s R&B and even doo-wop. When the album plants its feet firmly in that vintage throwback style, it can be pretty great. The slow ballad Almost Is Never Enough with Nathan Skies from The Wanted, Tattooed Heart, the opener Honeymoon Avenue, they feel like covers from the 50s and 60s, updated and produced for modern times. Plus, even at a young age, Ariana was a great singer, and she had producers by her side like Harmony Samuels, The Rascals, and the producer whom Ariana would work with for every album from here on out, Tommy Brown. And if we're gonna keep the trend going of interpolating old songs, I definitely prefer pulling the hook of Popular from Wicked and putting it in Popular Song with Mika. Did you know this song is technically a remix or a cover or an update of some sort? The original Popular Song is from Mika's album The Origin of Love, and it sports a more relaxed tempo a la the original Popular. Oh, I should also talk about the album's big single, The Way with Mac Miller. Ariana gets a hell of a lot of comparisons to R&B pop icon Mariah Carey, and the seeds of that comparison were first planted with this song, which isn't a bad thing. As a youngin', I always enjoyed hearing The Way on Fly 92.3 FM. It's a sweet and endearing love song with a playful verse by Mac Miller, but I've always wondered why this bit was censored. The lyric is, I'm not a player, I just crush a lot. It is itself a censored reference to an old Big Pun song. I get that some people might think crush a lot is sexual, but it also means just having an intense crush. Maybe it was just an overcorrection to appease modern audiences, which is also this album's biggest fault. While it does find success in the retro tracks, anything that leans more modern sounds so dated today. Piano is about Ariana choosing to make radio bops over piano ballads. I suppose there's some endearing quality to sing about the process of music making, but man, this sounds corny. And while the closer Better Left Unsaid sounds really lovely at first, you know what, I'm just gonna skip a little bit into the song, see if you notice anything different. If you wanna party, put your hands up, put your hands up, put your hands up. I don't know if you caught it, but it became an EDM track. Yours Truly can be a mixed bag, but its good moments, i.e. the singles, are worth digging for. Yours Truly was pretty successful. There was a month-long tour called The Listening Sessions, The Way became a big hit, plus the record would go on to be certified platinum in the US. While Ariana wasn't a household name per se, she was certainly hiding in the walls. Work on her second album began almost immediately after The Listening Sessions ended, but her next release wasn't too far off. Christmas Kisses came out in December 2013. It's an okay EP. Check out her cover of Wham's Last Christmas. Less than a year after her debut, in August 2014, we got My Everything. While My Everything retains some of Yours Truly's producers, it also brings on the likes of Ryan Tedder and Max Martin. I gotta say right up front, I love Intro. I love the vocal harmonies, I love those steel drums. This also gives me a good time to mention, if you like this song, there's a mashup done by DJ Drybones of this, Childish Gambino's Heartbeat, and Beyonce's Blow. Phenomenal mashup, it's in the description, I can't recommend it enough. Problem was the album's first single, and I do still enjoy it. That said, it does feel very much locked to its time. There's the brass hook, there's the pop drop. For God's sake, it has an Iggy Azalea verse. Remember Iggy Azalea? Remember 2014? The other singles also occupy that dated but slap space. One Last Time, Break Free with Zed. Oh, also Bang Bang, that big collab with Jessie J and Nicki Minaj. Despite being a single, it's only on the deluxe version. I remember really enjoying the song back in the day, but I think I fell out of love with it around the time I realized it's only one chord. And I'm not saying more chords equals more gooder music, but it gets monotonous real quick. As far as deep cuts go, I do get a big kick out of Break Your Heart Right Back. Apparently this one was written as a tell-off to an ex who later came out as gay, which makes the sample of I'm Coming Out feel especially cheeky, but in my opinion, the rest of My Everything pales in comparison to Love Me Harder. Love Me Harder is the first genuinely great Ariana Grande song. Those pulsating synths, great riffing from Ariana, and a guest appearance by up-and-comer The Weeknd. Post Kissland, but pre Can't Feel My Face. These two have excellent chemistry, and this will be the first of several collabs in the years to come. Like with Yours Truly, much of My Everything, including the singles, definitely feels its age. But unlike Yours Truly, I don't mind it as much. Now, is that because many of these songs soundtracked my early college years? Yes, probably. But I also think the songwriting is stronger in most places, and the production can still sound great even when it sounds very much of its time. In just about every way, My Everything saw more acclaim and attention than Yours Truly. Higher critical praise, more sales, more popular singles, a bigger tour. Plus, later that year, she dropped the holiday single, Santa Tell Me. I'd be willing to bet my 11th born child that this is the song that comes to mind when you think Ariana Grande and Christmas, and it's become one of the better remembered modern holiday tunes. This gave Ariana the biggest spotlight she had gotten so far, but that came with consequences. You see, every great artist has that moment where they just piss off America. The Beatles had that one quote about being bigger than Jesus, David Bowie had the Thin White Duke era, and Ariana Grande licked a donut. In July 2015, footage circulated of Ariana licking a donut in a donut shop. Now, a croissant or a Danish, forgivable, even patriotic in a certain way, but a donut? That's a step too far. And then she said she hated America. You know what, now that I'm hearing it again, that was probably the part that actually pissed people off. Despite the complete nothingness of the incident, it became a big deal, with Ariana having to come out and apologize. But it soon became donuts under the bridge, and in October 2015, we got the song that would usher in the next phase of Ariana's career, the one that made her an undeniable force in pop music. Focus! Focus on me! Focus on me! Okay, that didn't really happen. Focus occupies this interesting spot in Ariana's body of work. On one hand, I like it. The percussive beat is a solid foundation, the synths in the pre-chorus are great, the horns on the bridge and the final chorus are great. On the other hand, it has a very big problem, and that problem is Problem. The structure and dynamic build are the same, they both have a guy delivering the chorus hook, Big Sean whispering on Problem, Jamie Foxx doing his Ray Charles impersonation on Focus. The biggest difference is the horns replacing Iggy Azalea on the bridge. I will leave it to you to decide if that's an improvement. Despite having its merits, Focus was a letdown, and it led Ariana and co to go back into the studio and change focus for the next album, originally titled Moonlight. But before that, we got another Christmas record in 2015, Christmas and Chill. This one was recorded in just 4 days at Ariana's home, and you'd think that would make it a throwaway project. And yet, not only has Ariana gone on record saying this is her favorite project, but it would mark the first time she dabbled in sparse hip-hop production. Somehow, this random holiday EP is a turning point for Ariana's career. I recommend any fan check it out, though I'm not personally huge on the ukulele closer Winter Things. But the winter thawed, the spring came, the sun rose, and the moonlight was gone. In its place was Dangerous Woman, released in May 2016. If you're gonna capture attention for your new album, there are worse ways to do it than this album's lead single and title track. There are a ton of random production curveballs, like the guitar solo on the bridge and the vocoder on the outro. I'll be honest, it took me way too long to realize what Side to Side is referring to. Penguin cosplay? I can't tell if the pseudo-reggae production has aged all that well, but the melody sticks in your head quickly, and Nicki Minaj has a pretty good verse. In terms of its singles though, the best one has to be Into You, a larger-than-life banger with one of Ariana's best melodies and pulsating synths reminiscent of Love Me Harder. And yet, it somehow became one of Ariana's most underperforming singles. Well, you know, relatively. The deep cuts range from fine to forgettable. I liked Be Alright, Let Me Love You with Lil Wayne, Leave Me Lonely with Macy Gray. But there is one album cut on here that not only towers above all others on the record, but is also one of Ariana's best songs ever. Greedy feels like Ariana looked at the poor reception Focus got and was like, and what about it? Stellar vocal performance, outstanding horn section, and one of the most well-earned key changes in modern pop. The fact that this wasn't a single is something that will one day require a tribunal. Dangerous Woman makes a lot of strides towards being a standalone great album. The singles are good across the board, some deep cuts reach Valhalla, and the overall sound of the record is the most cohesive Ariana and co have created up to this point. Dangerous Woman was a success for the most part, but it was the first Ariana Grande album to not debut at #1 on the Billboard Top 200 thanks to Drake's Views. That album's crimes continue to plague us. Ariana kicked off the Dangerous Woman worldwide tour following the album's release, which even included a headlining spot at the Manchester Arena in May 2017. And as you probably know, that particular concert was the target of a terrorist bombing. It left 22 dead, 116 injured. It was a horrific and traumatic moment for everyone involved. Ariana's tour was briefly suspended, with her next live performance being the One Love benefit concert held at the Manchester Arena 2 weeks after the incident. An absolutely packed lineup including Ariana, Justin Bieber, Coldplay, Katy Perry, Robbie Williams. They even got Manchester's own Liam Gallagher from Oasis. His performance of Live Forever is probably my favorite moment. The month after the benefit concert, Ariana confirmed work on a new album, one that would bring back Max Martin and Tommy Brown, as well as Pharrell Williams as a producer. Said album would continue to be worked on for the next 9 months or so. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh god, Pete Davidson. In May 2018, it was confirmed that SNL comedian Pete Davidson and Ariana were dating, and the next month, they got engaged. Love is real! And so is Sweetener, released in August 2018. This is the first Ariana Grande album to have, for lack of a better word, stakes. I don't like to insinuate that artists have to go through some kind of tragedy in order to make great art, but Sweetener and the themes covered on it showcase a maturity that just wasn't on past records. Songs like the singles No Tears Left to Cry and Breathin', they're not about relationships or romance, they're about picking yourself up after emotional turmoil or anxiety. But I believe they hit so much harder emotionally because of it. It also certainly helps to have Pharrell on board, as he's responsible for most of my favorite songs on Sweetener. Blazed, for instance, has a phenomenal upright bass part, and I'm gonna say this until the day I die, the synth hook on Successful sounds like the jingle that plays in your Animal Crossing village. Man, God is a Woman. This is up there with Into You as Ariana's best single. The first time I'd ever describe an Ariana Grande song as epic. I love that chord progression on guitar. It sounds eerily similar to Pink Floyd's Pig's 3 Different Ones. Shout out to Switched on Pop for that discovery. And while it has aged very poorly in one particular way, Pete Davidson is a lovely track. I kinda wish it was expanded upon and made the closer. Not everything on Sweetener is a winner, but unlike past Ariana records, the stuff that I don't click with is still memorable because it's weird. I don't care for R.E.M. for instance, but its 2000s era dream R&B production is notable to say the least, as is the bit in the title track where they basically play Bop It. And The Light Is Coming has the sparsest beat of any Ariana song, with a sample of a guy yelling at a senator during a 2009 town hall meeting. Not my cup of tea, but still I admire it in a twisted way. In total, yeah, Sweetener's Ariana's best album. And so the light came to take back everything the donut stole. Sweetener was acclaimed by fans and critics, and Ariana's place in pop culture was further cemented. And if that wasn't enough, she covered Thundercats' Them Changes on BBC. Yes, more of this, please. I need this. But Them wasn't the only changes after Sweetener. For one, Ariana's good friend and ex Mac Miller passed away the month after the album dropped, and the month after that, Ariana and Pete Davidson called off their engagement. This would of course be the last time Pete Davidson dated a high-profile celebrity. It was an interesting time to be Ariana Grande. You've released an album that implicitly deals with a traumatic event just in time to process 2 more traumatic events. I would not have blamed Ariana at all for taking time away, which makes what she did next pretty surprising. Very soon after Sweetener, the song Thank You Next dropped. If I had to mark the point where human being Ariana Grande became pop star Ariana Grande, it would be this song. It not only nailed the production aesthetic that would define her career from here on out, and it not only had that earworm of a chorus, but it's where Ariana showed she could commandeer the public narrative, specifically in the opening lines where she gave a shout out to past partners Large Sean, Pete Davidson, Ricky Alvarez, and the late Mac Miller. It was that part that some took issue with some believing this was Ariana making a buck off Mac's name. This kinda ties into a belief that isn't widely held by everybody, but does pop up semi-regularly, that Ariana was in some part responsible for Mac's personal issues and even his death. At best, that kind of thinking is highly reductive, and it grinds a complex human being down to the most surface level story in order to reinforce narratives and negative biases. At worst, it's Ariana dropping this song so soon after Sweetener was unexpected, but it reflected her newfound desire to release music outside conventional pop star protocol. And it wasn't the last time this would happen. Just a few months later, in February 2019, Thank You Next, the album, was released. I enjoy both Needy and NASA, but I especially like how they're placed right next to each other on the track list. It's a cute nod to how dichotomous people can be. One minute you're Needy, and the next you're a NASA pilot. Bloodline has always weirded me out. At its core, it's about some guy trying to come up on Ariana, and she's not having it. Fine, cool, great, love it. And then the chorus opens with "Don't want you in my bloodline." Look, I get this guy might be an asshole, but there's a way to tell him off without resorting to eugenics. Other highlights include the opener Imagine, Bad Idea, and the beautifully orchestrated Ghostin'. But most people know this record for its last 3 tracks, which are the singles. 7 Rings. Did you know this is Ariana Grande's most successful song? Because it makes sense once you think about it, but it is also not a good representation of Ariana's catalog. It's like how Coldplay's most popular song is their Chainsmokers collab. This is the closest thing to a rap song Ariana has made. The beat is your run-of-the-mill late 2010s trap. Ariana pretty much raps on the bridge. And the lyrics are all about extravagant spending. Ariana even described it as a friendship anthem. But it also inspired a ton of backlash, as many accused Ariana of plagiarism and cultural appropriation, especially with this line in the chorus. You like my hair? Gee, thanks. Just bought it. Now, I don't believe I'm qualified to speak on that second subject, and so I won't. But you know what I do believe I'm qualified to speak on? Music, theater, and musical theater. Remember how I said this is Ariana's most popular song? Well, she probably hasn't seen most of the fruits of her labor. According to reports, she gave up 90% of the royalties because of the verse melody. Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles. Girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble. The hills are alive with the sound of lawyers. As 7 Rings borrows the melody from The Sound of Music's My Favorite Things. Was that interpolation worth it? Even today, 7 Rings is a weird song. It's supposedly about self-empowerment and financial freedom, but it just sounds sad. I've seen some people say that it's satirical and that lines like this "Whoever said money can solve your problems must not have had enough money to solve them" are supposed to reflect a depressing underbelly beneath all the spending, but honestly, as the years have gone by, that interpretation feels way too charitable. Aside from 1 or 2 cherry-picked moments, the song is played straight. Mixed feelings on 7 Rings, to say the least. And Break Up With Your Girlfriend, I'm Bored is You know what? I'm just gonna say it, I don't care for this song much. And a large reason why is that it's such a pessimistic way to end an album. And it comes right after Thank You Next, which was about self-love and maturing. You might say, well, it's an intentional contradiction, kind of like how Needy and NASA were right next to each other on the track list. And sure, maybe, but the juxtaposition is so severe, in my opinion, that it cheapens both songs. Ariana saying she's needy and then needs space comes off as quirky and relatable. Ariana celebrating personal growth and then fantasizing about breaking up a couple for her own personal gain feels like regression, and then the album's over. It reminds me of how the penultimate track on Justin Timberlake's The 2020 Experience Part 2 was Only When I Walk Away, which ends with this. And then the next song is about how it's not a bad thing to fall in love with him. I think Thank You Next was an important album for Ariana. This is the part where she breaks free from typical pop star conventions, and that's cool and all. That said, while I would recommend you listen to it, I feel like that recommendation comes more from its significance in Ariana's career and less from the quality of the music. Thank You Next garnered as much, if not more acclaim than Sweetener, and a tour for both albums started in March 2019. If you want to hear one of the shows, there's the live album K-Bye For Now. It's a good set list with pretty much every Ariana song you would expect, except Greedy. It also has one of the strangest things Ariana's ever cut to tape, My Heart Belongs to Denny, an old Cole Porter tune that Ariana sings with clear auto-tune. Is this good? I don't know, but it's hella weird. Love it. The next year or so would see Ariana putting out singles or side projects. She dropped a collab with her songwriting partner Victoria Monet called Monopoly, phenomenal video editing on this one. She worked on the soundtrack for that Charlie's Angels reboot, which you likely know from the song Don't Call Me Angel. She worked with the group Social House on the song Boyfriend. In early May 2020, she released a duet with Justin Bieber called Stuck With You. I don't like this song, but later that month, she was featured on Lady Gaga's Rain On Me. I like this song. But in October 2020, Ariana dropped the lead single and title track of an album that would release just a week later. Positions. I really enjoyed that title track when it was released, which made it all the more surprising when I learned most people didn't. Apparently they didn't think it sounded like a single, which I guess is kind of what I liked about it, and also that it was in the key of D minor, so automatically good. But I listened to the full album the day it came out and felt underwhelmed. For context, Ariana started dating a real estate agent in January 2020. Love is real again! And the overall theme of Positions is relationship bliss. It reminded me of Justin Bieber's Changes, a record that was also about relationship bliss. At least I think it was, because it put me to sleep very quickly. Then again, I also remember being more enthusiastic about Clipping's horror rap album Visions of Bodies Being Burned, which came out the same day. Talk about whiplash so severe that it breaks your neck off. For revisiting it for this retrospective, I found myself warming up to it more, and that was largely because of the strings. God, the strings on this sound so good. They appear on pretty much every song on the album, and that one instrumental decision gives Positions the greatest feeling of cohesion of any Ariana record. And that cohesion ties into the personnel involved as well. Remember how I said way back with yours truly that Tommy Brown was the only producer to work with Ariana on every album? It goes even further than that. He oversaw production on every track off Positions. I can't do math, so I'm not sure what 34 plus 35 is referring to. Don't tell me what it means in the comments either, I also can't read. The album version is fine, but I've always been more a fan of the remix with Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion, as I think they're both very charismatic personalities. My other favorite tracks include Off the Table with The Weeknd, Open or Shut Up, Safety Net with Ty Dolla $ign, and especially the closer, POV. This may be the best closer on any Ariana Grande album. Overall, Positions may not have the same killer singles that Thank You Next or even Sweetener had, but I also think this is the first Ariana Grande record that's gonna get better with age. Or even better, this will be the predecessor to the next Ariana Grande album, which could take what made Positions work and build on it.
Count to 10. Don't forget 3. Some people forget forget it.
In this post-Positions world, things have been quiet on the Ariana Grande front. She released a concert film from the Sweetener tour in December 2020. She became a judge on The Voice. She popped up on a remix of The Weeknd's Save Your Tears. She scored a #1 victory royale, Yeah Fortnite We Bout to Get Down. She contributed a song with Kid Cudi to the film Don't Look Up, and she even acted in it too.
Why don't you mind your own business, you old
This is the only good part of that movie.
Love fingerling potatoes.
And speaking of movies, it was announced that Ariana would be playing Glinda in an upcoming movie adaptation of Wicked. From interpolating popular to singing popular, the Ariana Grande story. Beyond that though, Ariana has publicly said that she'll be taking a break from music to do other things. So if you've ever wanted to check out her discography, this would be a great time. If you want to get into Ariana Grande, I would recommend starting out with Sweetener, and then after that, Dangerous Woman and Positions. And if you have a favorite Ariana Grande song, album, related thing, please let me know what it is in the comments.